The story of Abraham. Once upon a time, in the ancient city of Ur, where the main living of the people are hunting and fishing, there lived a man named Abram. He wasn't just any man, he was special, chosen for something far greater than he could ever imagine. Born into a world where people worshipped many gods, Abram was different. Deep in his heart, he believed that there was only one true God, a God who was all-powerful and all-knowing. One day, God spoke to Abram. "Leave your homeland," he said, "and go to a land that I will show you. I will make you the father of a great nation, and through you all the families of the earth will be blessed." It was a daunting request, but Abram's faith in God was strong. So without hesitation, he gathered his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all their belongings, and set off on a journey to a new unknown land. They traveled far, through deserts and over mountains, until they reached the land of Canaan. There God spoke to Abram again, promising that this land would belong to his descendants. But there was one problem. Abram and Sarai were getting old, and they had no children. How could they have descendants to inherit the land? Years went by, and still they had no children. Sarai, desperate to fulfill God's promise, suggested that Abram have a child with her maidservant, Hagar. And so Hagar bore Abram a son named Ishmael. Abram loved Ishmael, but God had other plans. One day, when Abram was 99 years old, God appeared to him again. "Your name will no longer be Abram," God said, "but Abraham, meaning father of many nations. And Sarai will now be called Sarah, meaning princess, for she will bear you a son." This seemed impossible. Abraham and Sarah were well past the age of having children. But sure enough, just as God had promised, Sarah gave birth to a son. They named him Isaac, a name that means laughter, because both Abraham and Sarah had laughed at the thought of having a child at their age. Isaac grew up, and Abraham loved him dearly. But then, God tested Abraham's faith in a way that would shake any parent to the core. "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah," God said. "Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you." Imagine the turmoil in Abraham's heart. Isaac was the child of promise, the son through whom God's covenant would be fulfilled. But Abraham's faith was unshakable. He set out with Isaac, carrying the wood for the sacrifice, and when they reached the mountain, he built an altar. Just as he was about to sacrifice his beloved son, an angel of God called out, "Abraham, Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. He sacrificed the ram instead, and the angel of the Lord called to him again, renewing the promise that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Abraham lived out the rest of his days in the land of Canaan, knowing that he had done everything God asked of him. His legacy lived on, not just in the children of Isaac, but also in the descendants of Ishmael, who would become a great nation in their own right. And so, Abraham became the father of a great nation, just as God had promised. His son Isaac went on to have children of his own, and through them, the world was forever changed. But the story of Abraham is not just about the birth of nations. It's a story of faith, of trust, and of the belief that even in the darkest times, God's promises will come true.